In other words, during my enslavement, there is only one word that I know how to say, and that word is yes, and yes, and yes to everything. Even yes to torture, yes to demonization, yes to any brutalization come with it. You name it. So it is not easy to talk about, but I become to realize when I talk about it, I am releasing the anger which was in me.
Welcome to What Came After. I'm your host, Manya Marcus. On What Came After, we'll take a look at the many ways people's lives have changed since the brutal massacre in Israel on October 7th, 2023. We'll be speaking to people around the world to learn how this profound moment in Jewish and global history continues to shift, shape, and change them. To learn more, please visit us at whatcameafter.com. Hi everyone, I'm Manya Marcus, and this is being recorded on October 9th, 2025. A deal has just been signed to end the war in Gaza and return all the hostages. While many are celebrating, others are holding their breath, waiting to see if what we've hoped and prayed for these long and painful 2 years will truly come to pass. We are about to launch the show's 4th season, which will focus on the American diaspora. Normally, we take more time between seasons for editing, music, and production, but with the world changing so quickly, we've decided to release these episodes more frequently and much closer to the dates on which they were recorded. This season begins with Simon Deng, a remarkable man from South Sudan who was kidnapped at the age of 9 and endured 3.5 years of slavery before escaping. As we hope this is a season of liberation for those who were likewise kidnapped and are still being held hostage, we ask not what came after, but what comes next. Simon, who lived through the unthinkable and managed to build a life of passion and purpose, has a lot to tell us about the moment we are living through and the history we are making. Hello, it is September 3rd, 2025, and I'm really honored to be sitting here with Simon Deng. Simon, could you introduce yourself and tell us where we are right now?
My name is Simon Deng. Originally, I'm from Africa, but now I'm a resident of New York. We are here today in my office in Hamilton Fish Pool. That's where I work in the summer.
Let's talk about your advocacy work a little bit. I know that you have a really difficult story that you often share about your childhood. And before I ask you to share it, I actually want to go to October 7th and ask you where you were that day, what it felt like for you, and how quickly you made the link between your own personal story and what had happened in Israel.
October 7th happened while I was here in New York. And for me, when I saw it on the news, it didn't come as a surprise to me, simply because we had been follow what Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran was building up as an act of terror to bring down, to wipe out Israel. It didn't surprise me at all for the simple reasons. When I saw the footage and the image being put out by the terrorists, sadly, they don't have a human side on them to commit the ruthless atrocity on innocent peoples, babies, elders, and put the footage for the world to see. There is nothing more evil in that. It reminds me of what used to happen to us Southern Sudanese when the Arabs terrorizing the people of Southern Sudan, slaughter 4 million Southern Sudanese. Those atrocities which happened on October 7th, it is exactly what has been going on in Southern Sudan for years and years, and unfortunately, the world was not aware of it because there is no footage, there is no camera, but that exactly when they burn people alive, cutting people in pieces, it is exactly the same atrocity that being committed to my people. So for me, it didn't come as a surprise. The only thing that one can think of at that moment, why? What happened? Israel being known in the world when it comes to security. What happened? And I come to conclusions. Somebody went to sleep. And Israelis went to sleep, and the government went to sleep, and even the entire army went to sleep, because things like that, nobody ever thought it would happen to Israel, and it happened.
Did you have a relationship with Israel, with Israelis, with Jews before October 7th?
Yes, there was something I sent to Maya, the footage of the gentleman by Joseph Lago. Joseph Lago happened to be the founder of the resistance movement in Southern Sudan against the Arab terrorists. He was the one who led the first resistance against the government of Sudan. And he was the first Southern Sudanese who set foot in Israel. He was the first Southern Sudanese who met Israeli when nobody in the world has come to aid or even recognize and say what is happening in Southern Sudan committed by the government of Sudan at that time, but nobody were there. Only country in the world is with the government of Israel, who came and gave the Southern Sudanese something to support themselves so that they can defend themselves, because they are being terrorized when already millions of people was being slaughtered in the name of jihad by the government. So the relationship has been there. For the people of Southern Sudan, there is one person on earth that they will never, ever forget. And that person happened to be a Jewish person in the state of Israel. So for me, before October 7, I had been in Israel 11 times.
Oh, wow.
So there is a connection. And what I was doing all along is to connect the dots, to bring back the relationship nobody is even talking about, the connection nobody even talking about. But unfortunately, sometimes when you climb the mountains and you are not in the government, it is not easy to reach where your message will get through. But I had been in Israel 11 times before October 7. And when October 7 happened, the first thing I have done is to go and look for the ticket to Israel. Just to go there and be with the family. Just to be there in solidarity, to tell the family of victims that you are not alone. There is somebody, even by myself. Unfortunately, it was not easy to get a flight at that time. Every time I got a flight, it would be canceled. It took me almost a month. When I went to Israel, the first thing I did is walk from Tel Aviv all the way to Jerusalem.
You walked.
I walked from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem with the Israeli flags on me, symbolic. I'm not 100 people, not 200 people, but one person. But by putting Israeli flags on me, somebody will see me. I will be visible. And I was joined by the few Southern Sudanese that happened to be in Israel that didn't know who they are, but they knew that I coming and show you the relationship and the connections of the people of Southern Sudan and the state of Israel.
To talk about visibility and invisibility, it seems like a lot of what has happened in Southern Sudan in the last, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, you'll tell me, has been kind of invisible to the West. Can you share with us what your personal story was when you were a child and how you felt so much empathy for people in Israel who had been through this experience on October 7th?
So my stories is not something strenuous to people of Israel and the Jewish at large, for the simple reasons. When I was a child at the age of 9, during the civil war between the North and the South, when the Southern Sudanese being slaughtered and nobody even knows about it, there were kids being taken left and right, sold into slavery, given to slavery. I was one of the victims of the enslavement. I was kidnapped from Southern Sudan, brought to the Northern Sudanese by a Northern Sudanese, and I was given away by him to his relative as a gift, that he came from Southern Sudan and he brought some gift and happened to be a human being that happened to be me. So my story, it is connected with the Jewish people. Slavery didn't start in Southern Sudan, although slavery goes back, but nobody should be reminded of the slavery more than the Jewish people when they was being enslaved in Egypt by the Pharaoh. To a point when I become to realize what I went through, I see myself the way Moses was there. So when I came to the States, after I got out from the enslavement, I came here as somebody to be the voice of people who being left behind. And indeed, most people in Southern Sudan at that time, there is no outlet where their message has been shown. And when I talk about 4 million of them being slaughtered, nobody knows. People will be, what are you talking about? Until you explain it step by step. In the first war, which is started in 1955 and ended in 1972, 1.5 million Southern Sudanese was slaughtered. Hundreds of thousands of the kids was taken to the slavery. I was one of them. The Second War in 1983 until 2005, 2.5 million Southern Sudanese was slaughtered. Hundreds of thousands was being taken to the enslavement again, to a point where my advocacy here was focusing to go and liberate slavery, those whom are being taken from the North. I have to go with people from the US, elected officials, to let them go and see, because when we talk about the slavery, everybody doesn't believe it. So what will we do? We will find a way to go through Kenya and go all the way in Southern Sudan without the knowledge of the government and go to Western Sudan where some of the slaves are being held. And then we send the local villages to go and inform the slave master that we can buy one of your slaves. And that's what we have been doing with the slave liberation here, using the organization American Anti-Slavery Group, connection with the Christian Solidarity International in Switzerland, and we have liberated thousands of Southern Sudanese. And there was one thing I find when we liberate about 118 kids. And then in the evenings, one of the young girls, she's about 13 years old.
This was how long ago?
Before the independence of Southern Sudan, before the peace agreements. These young girls came to me because I was the only Black person within the groups. And she came to me to tell me her dream. And she went on to explain her dream is to go to schools, become a doctor, and then go to Israel. I could not even believe a young lady which came out from the enslavement in the location where there is no school at all. And she will never go to school. She will never become a doctor. But that's her dream. So I have to give myself a moment to digest what she said when she mentioned Israel. So I went back to ask her, after you become a doctor, why you want to go to Israel? And she told me in African, these are our peoples. We're talking about a child. She doesn't know where Israel located. And that is the connection I was trying to deliver to the people of Israel, that there is a child in Southern Sudan. She doesn't know how to read. She doesn't know where East and West located. And her dream is to visit Israel and consider people of Israel their people. And that connection, it is started by the gentleman by the name Joseph Lago, who happened to be the founder of the resistance movement of Southern Sudan. He was the one who did the connections.
He is an Israeli?
He is a Southern Sudanese.
He's Southern Sudanese.
Yeah, he's the one who found the resistance movement of the people of Southern Sudan.
Okay.
Anyanya. And he's the one whom did make the connections. So what I was doing, part of it, to revisit and build the bridge that Joseph Lago started, the connection with Israel, and to make sure that the dream of that young lady can come true. Unfortunately, this thing happened. And let me take you this to prove the point of that young lady. When Egyptians killed Southern Sudanese at one of the parks in front of the UN in Egypt, the park called by the name Mustafa Mahmoud Park, which is in front of the United Nations buildings in Egypt. These are Southern Sudanese that was being granted political asylum or being registered as refugees in Egypt. But the UN is always doing nothing about them. And that's why I call United Do-Nothing Nations. Nobody telling them what is their status. So they went there to camp as some kind of protest in thousands. In the end, the Egyptians and the UN together went and told the Egyptians these people have to be removed by force. And 38 of them was killed in the night, including women and children.
By whom? Who killed them?
By the Egyptian security.
Wow.
So what Southern Sudanese realized that there is no difference between the enemy that they ran away from Sudan and the enemy in Egypt. So some of them decided to walk across the border through the desert, dodging the Egyptian bullet to go to Israel. They would have gone to Syria. They would have gone to Lebanon. They would have gone to elsewhere. But there is only one place they choose to go. And nobody even asked a question, why the Southern Sudanese carrying the Sudanese passport with the language in the passport saying that you cannot go to the enemy, Kadu in Arabic.
What does that mean?
Beled al-Adu, which is a country of the enemy.
Okay.
Which is Israel's. Because they don't want to call Israel as a country.
Right.
So they choose the word Beled al-Adu. So the Southern Sudanese took the risk because they ran away from the terrorizing government in Sudan, and now the Egyptian doing exactly the same thing. And the only friend they thought about is the Israelis. These are part of the thing that we need to build. So my relationship since I came here, I has been an advocate on behalf of the Jewish community because we are in the same boat.
Now, when you describe that boat, you're talking about how we are all threatened by Islamic fundamentalism.
The same person.
Can you speak more about the Islamic fundamentalism piece of this?
When you see Hamas, when you see Hezbollah, when you see mullahs of Iran, when you see Houthis, when you see ISIS, these are the groups that terrorizing us in Southern Sudan. These are the group whom their mission is to kill every single Israeli Jewish. I was watching some of the footage today. I come across some of the movements of so-called Free Palestines, and then raising their hands as Hitler things. These are the things that we are now trying to call upon everybody in the world, including Muslims themselves. Mm-hmm. Because there are some Muslims coming out now. There are some Muslims denouncing what Hamas is doing, denouncing what Hezbollah is doing, denouncing what Iran is doing, because what they are doing, it is not even good in the name of Islam. And there are Muslims, people who could have a gut, the way former kings of Jordan, King Abdullah. We have few Muslim leaders today following the same thing because we have to come to realize, and this is for the Islamic community and the Arab in large and the Muslims in particular, the hate to Jews have to be brought to an end. And all of us, I'm one of the people too, we have to stand up and denounce because we cannot see the evils and ignore the evils. Once you ignore the evil win. Before Hitler activates his evil act, the hate toward Jews in Europe was visible. But nobody stand up. Nobody said anything. When he activated his evil things, the entire North African countries, the Arabs in those countries, terrorized because every single country in North Africa, there was Jews there as part of the society of those countries. What happened to them today? Where did they go? So these things, in my opinion, as a victim, as a survivor of the Islamic fundamentals and the terrorists of Sudan, I have to stand up and use my freedom so that nobody should go where I went through. Nobody should be demonized. Why the Jews being singled out and the world being silent? Especially the United Do Nothing Nations. Because the United Do Nothing Nation is part of the problems. When you have the world body passing thousands of resolutions against one country, more resolutions than any world combined, for God's sake, the Jewish community and the Jews themselves, they are part of this society. They have done their part for the good of the human civilization of the world we are in today. For God's sakes, and they're still doing it. And the United Do Nothing Nation, all they have to do is put their always resolution against Israel and turn a blind eye on the terrorists. When the terrorists in Gaza building the tunnels, UN was watching it. US were giving them fund. And they're doing something to come and kill innocent people. And they could not even say a word about it. UN should be condemned by the whole world.
What relationship did the UN have with the Southern Sudanese crisis? Did they act at all? Did they not act?
The reason I call the United Nations as a United Do Nothing Nations, because I become to know when I was in Sudan before I left. And that goes back to 1982, 83, in particular 83, 84. When jihad declared on them and the government went ruthlessly, with no mercy, burned down every single village, single hut in Southern Sudan, where millions of Southern Sudanese have to find refuge, walk all the way to Ethiopia, to a point that we have about 3 million refugees in Ethiopia at that time, 2 million in Uganda-Kenya borders. We have 7 million at that time refugees, including 2 or 3 million refugees within Northern Sudan. And UN, what were they doing? Nothing. Why I said nothing? Because people are dying of hunger and there are food in the warehouse. sitting there, and UN cannot deliver it to the needies. Why? Their explanation was that they didn't get a green light from the government.
And this is the government that's committing all these
Committing these
horrible
atrocities. With collaboration of the United Do Nothing Nation. That's why I give them their name, and they deserve that name.
You have been telling your story of enslavement and liberation a lot. Is it hard for you to share this story as often as you do?
To be honest, nobody is proud to call himself slaves. The things that happen to a person when you're being slaves, these things cannot be understood by anyone, even you. There are things that I cannot even tell, because in the position where I was being enslaved, I was not a human being. I was just a piece where the slave master can do anything. In other words, during my enslavement, there is only one word that I know how to say, and that word is yes, and yes, and yes to everything. Even yes to torture, yes to demonization, yes to any brutalization come with it. You name it. So it is not easy to talk about, but I become to realize when I talk about it, I am releasing the anger which was in me, because I didn't choose to become a slave. I was kidnapped. I was a victim. And indeed, when I was not talking about it, it was something in me so heavy, to a point when I see the word slaves itself, it will bring a nightmare back to me. And this thing happened here in New York, because when I came out from slavery, I decided not to talk about it, not to let anybody know about it, except my immediate family and those who got me out from the slavery. Because now I have to come up with a new identity, a new person. Let me be a human being, which I wasn't there, because I never thought I would be here. I never thought I would be speaking as a free person. So I took that kind of philosophy to be in a closet, and I came to New York. One day, I was walking at Fulton Street in Brooklyn. There was a big buildings with a big name, a slave theater, and I was shocked.
That is shocking. Enslaved theater?
I was shocked. I have to walk back and forth more than 6 times to figure it out. Big building. So there was people selling merchandise. So I went and asked, what is this building? Oh, they told me that there is a place where the event took place in the evening and so on. So what are the days? So I have to come to investigate to see what kind of slave inside there. Slave theater, what is it? And I visit that place for almost 3 weeks. What being done inside has nothing to do with the names out. Until one time, I found in one of the newspapers in New York, an article, front page. One of the newspapers does not exist today, Citizen. It's the black newspapers in New York here. And then with the titles, you can buy a slave in Sudan for $10.
That was the title of the article?
I couldn't believe my eyes. I bought it, I took it home, look at it, put it down, look at it, and everything come back. If it was, you can buy a slave in Indonesia for $10, in India for $10, that would be a different thing. But in Sudan. So now I have to call the newspapers to find out the person who wrote the articles. So they inform me that he is not working with them. He's a field writer. So I give them my info that I want to talk to this gentleman. 1 week later, he called me and we met. During our meetings, I have to find out where did he come up with this. He was doing his research. He's a PhD holder at Columbia University, but he was doing research at the UN. He found all these things from the United Do Nothing Nations. So what he got from me became another article, but I didn't tell him that I was a slave. I didn't tell him. I'm a steals. But I'm talking, feeding him. Everything came out in my mouth. It became an article to him. Another article.
You were just giving him information.
Yes.
You didn't connect it to yourself.
Yes. I'm speaking to him as a slave, but with the different names.
I see.
And so on. So this is where we become and found the movement of the American anti-slavery group, because we found that it is not only Sudan the slavery exists. There is a country in West Africa, a country of Mauritania. And we connected out. And we found a Mauritanian who came to speak on what is exactly, everything was similar. So this is where I was able to release everything which has been holding me down. And what made me speak more? Not me, because I'm speaking on behalf of those whom are still in bondage, those whom are still being bought and sold for $10. I'm a free man. I'm using my freedom to free those who still have no freedom in Southern Sudan. And indeed, it worked.
What advice would you give to people who are coming out of slavery themselves, Israeli hostages, anyone in any part of the world who comes out of this situation? How would you tell them to heal?
My message is what you went through, you have no part of it. It was done by a person that happened to be an evil. All you have to do is to stand up against that evil, because you don't need the evil to go and victimize another one tomorrow. And indeed, using my freedom, we was able to convince American government to push the government of Sudan to sign peace with the Southern Sudanese resistance movement. Because when Americans got involved, the government of Sudan admit the existence of slavery. The president, Omar Bashir, admit slavery exists. Sadiq and Mahdi, the prime minister of Sudan, even admit to the nightline here in the United States under the anchor of Ted Koppels. He admit to the world that slavery exists, and he blamed it to the war. Dr. Hassan Turabi, architect of Islamic law, who brought Islamic radical Islam into the Sudanese system, admit. So when I was with President of the United States, George W. Bush, in Oval Office, he told me, he looked me in the eye, he said, I'm going to bring peace if it will end the slavery in Sudan. And indeed, if I didn't speak out on behalf of those, probably Bush wouldn't took the action that he did. If it was not because we were able to tell evangelical leaders, churches in the US here, they wouldn't be our voice. They wouldn't be there to use their influence on the elected official to convince them we have to rescue those whom are being victimized for so long and nobody speaks on their behalf. I remember when usually Billy Graham used to teach, late Billy Graham, when he spoke to the world, to the millions, when he finished, he always asked the world, pray for the people of Southern Sudan. Mm-hmm. And that worked. For those I am fighting for them to come out in the mouths of the terrorists. And I hope we can get them out. I hope we can get one of them out alive. And we're still praying for those whom are still alive, we will rescue them. If they come out, I want them to be the voice. They should not sit down and blame themselves for what happened, because they have nothing to do with what happened. It was done by the evil, and we have to fight the evil shoulder by shoulder. And in the end of the day, the evil will be defeated. And we're seeing all the head of evils who was waging terrorist Israel, the majority of them now being defeated, and we will defeat all of them.
When I think about my childhood, I do remember Reverend Billy Graham, this request to pray for Sudan. It feels like our imagination has completely turned away from Sudan. What do you think about everybody's fixation on Gaza and what that has done to people's ability to pay attention to the humanitarian needs in southern Sudan?
There is a miss, usually, when the crime being committed on a black person, especially in Africa. Who cares?
You said that's a myth.
Yes, who cares? Sudan, far away, we can't see them. Blacks, nobody see them. But when it comes to Hamas, knowing that they are the evil, they are the one who started it. It was not Israeli. It was not the Jews. Israel moved out from Gaza years ago. They left everything. They left Gaza with everything. Hamas, when they came, what did they do? Oh, they turned the Gaza into the tunnels. In the eyes of the UN feeding them, and they was using what UN given to them to do things, knowing that the result of it is to commit a terror. Teaching young kids with the funds being allocated by the UN under this organization called UNRWA. What makes the Palestinian refugees so special? This is a double standard. You want to see the refugees? I will take you where the refugees is and see UN with your own eyes. We have Southern Sudanese refugees in Kakuma. We have Southern Sudanese refugees even within Southern Sudan today. And you're telling me Gaza is refugees when there are two-story buildings, schools, universities? That itself is a mess. There is something that UN should have to explain to the world. There is a double standard when it comes to the treatment of those terrorists and the real refugees. If you tell a Southern Sudanese refugees camp that these people are refugees compared to you, will be like, what are you talking about?
And why do you think people have this double standard and can't perceive this to be the truth, what you're describing?
When you are a Muslim and you cry loud enough, everybody will jump in so that doesn't want to be seen, oh, you are Islamophobia. You are not anti anything. A human being is a human being. A Southern Sudanese, they are not different from any person on earth. But why we have a double standard by the UN? Being you have UNRWA organizations for the first time for anybody in the world who was refugees, that there is a design organization within the UN being funded with billions of dollars for the refugees. Is Palestinian are the refugees in the world? If that's not the case, are other refugees being treated the way it's being treated? And this argument have to be brought. Of course, nobody will bring that up unless you have to be a person, a victim like me, refugees like me, to come, because I have my own peoples whom are now in a refugees camp. You cannot call a refugees place when you have a factory of weapons underneath. You cannot call it a refugees camp when you're building bombs. And my people over there, they're looking for food, not for bomb. They're not looking for anything to harm somebody. And the UN here feeding somebody, giving money, being channeled to build arm and build bomb to go and kill the state of Israel. And that is why I'm appealing to all people in the world. Let's join together and denounce the terrorists and put an end to the hate to the Jewish community worldwide and say enough is enough. Time has come to realize that you cannot, years and years, attacking Jewish in US, attacking Jewish in New York, attacking Jewish in Boston, attacking Jewish elsewhere, in South Africa, in Australia, and so on and so on. What is your justifications? When are you going to realize that there is no difference between your child and a child of a Jewish person? They are all human beings, no different. And in fact, the Jewish society and Jewish community has contributed to the human civilization in this world of today. We have to bring an end to this hate against the Jewish community. And I'm here talking to you, proud to call myself a friend of Israel and a friend of the Jewish community. And I stand with Israel.
You are wearing a Bring Them Home Now shirt. You have a hostage pin. You're also wearing a Star of David. You have sat outside Washington Square with a sign that indicates that you said you were a hostage or you were a slave. Ask me anything. How do people approach you? Do people ever approach you with hatred? What kind of questions do they ask?
It is always different views, and there are people who will look at me like I'm being paid to do that. I am puppet without even knowing what I went through, without knowing what Jewish community went through when they were being held as a slave in Egypt. So what happened to me is not different from what the Jewish community historical-wise connected. And what exactly, not to me alone, to my people of Southern Sudan. And I can tell you today, 99% of Southern Sudanese, if you ask them, who is your friend in the world? They will tell you Israel, with no hesitation, and they will tell you in a proud way. Even some of them in the village that will never come to Israel. And this history need to be linked. Because what you went through, we went through. Hitler slaughtered your peoples, 6 million. The terrorist government, Arab government of Sudan, slaughtered 4 million of my peoples. We are in the same boat. The same persons, and that's what I said one time. They came to me first, and now they're coming for you. There was one scholar, an Egyptian scholar. He was one big names in Azhar University in Cairo. In his teaching, he said there is 2 people's world should get rid of. And he went on to name. He put Southern Sudanese first and Israel second. What a coincidence. What have we done? What have we done?
That's sort of my question. Why is there such hostility towards Southern
Since
Sudan?
we are not going to get answer from anyone, It is for us to come together and unite and stand side by side, shoulder by shoulder, proud. We are one. What happened to you? It is exactly what happened to me. The same way. And I wish there have to be some footage somewhere in heaven to be put aside with what October 7 looked like. Everything exactly that. And that is why I walk, so that if anybody can see me, will wonder why. And I did it. I was very proud to do it. And my peoples who walk with me, you could not even imagine. We always start walking from the morning until we finish. I never find one complaining. They were doing it with passions. There is something we have to give back to Israelis. They have given us something before when nobody were there. The only thing we give them today is to walk in solidarity. And I was able to meet family, cry with them, to meet family. Even here in the States, who came here. I was in Chicago with family. I was here in the Center Park with families, in a private meeting with families. And all I can do, I will give you a hug. And let's hold on two things, hope and faith. Hope and faith. These are the names I have given to my two daughters, hope and faith, because these are the things kept me to where I am today.
Simon, you are a very busy person, and you have taken time with me that I really appreciate. I think that everything you're doing is critical, and I think so many people want to thank you, so I'll do that on their behalves. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, and I will do it again.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe to What Came After wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us online at whatcameafter.com.
Centuries have shown our fate. Come the tyrants with their blood and hate. The scroll from which we teach and read, oh, to them is but a poison seed. And the rockets fly with roots so cold, so cold. And the hatred hurled with stones so old, so old. Shots ring out and seasons turn. Plans of peace begin to fade and burn. And 6 million ain't enough for he. Oh, they're pounding at your gates, my sweet Jerusalem. Oh, Jerusalem. Oh, oh, Jerusalem. Jerusalem, oh, Jerusalem. Oh, Jerusalem. Oh, Jerusalem. Oh, Jerusalem. City of my heart, city of my soul, city of the truest truth of all.
Fired 10 Qasam rockets into Israel and Gaza Wednesday morning. That comes after firing more than 40 rockets and mortar shells Tuesday.
The spectre of random attacks, which the nearby town of Sderot has been suffering for months and years, is now becoming part of everyday reality here.
Rockets have been fired from Lebanon into northern Israel. 2 people were wounded in attacks earlier this Thursday morning.
Blasts injured 9 people in Sderot, including a 5-year-old girl and her mother. Others were treated for shrapnel wounds and shock.
Plowed through the top 2 floors, sending glass and debris in all directions.
Second rocket landed in a residential area in the southern part of the town.
Leaving the town without electricity for much of the night.
Well, a little earlier, Mary, there were reports of a second salvo of rockets hitting Israel from southern Lebanon.
A rocket fired from Gaza makes a direct hit on a home in Ashkelon.
It's just a matter of time until the next rocket escalation begins here in southern Israel.